Hey, welcome back to Space Marine 2112. We have another stream slash video here today. Thought I might as well do something a little bit different tonight. I'm kind of bored. All my all my friends have decided to go to bed early, like lamos. So I'm like, you know what? I'm up. I'm having a good glass of wine tonight. We got a good Chardonnay, House of the Dragon Chardonnay. It's decent. I don't know. I get these wine shipments. Some of them are better than others. This one happens to be, It was a good deal though. It was like $100 for 18 bottles. I mean, you're not going to get much better than that. But anyway, so for YouTube, anyway, this is going to be a different video than normal. Um, I think the last video I recorded was just some concert that I was at, so I'm actually deciding to do some ranking videos now. Thought it would be a good change of pace. Ignore the fact that there's ads all over the place. I don't know how to remove those from a stream or anything. I mean, this is not my job. This is just something I do for the hell of it on my free times. But so here we have tonight my one of my favorite bands of all time, Rush. They used to be my favorite band. I've kind of gone towards the Neil Morris side of things, which we'll be ranking those albums at some point soon. Um, but yeah, Rush is probably my second favorite band now. They were my favorite band for years and years and years, and I know a great deal about their album. So here I have come up with this little tier list here. Obviously, nothing below a B is possible for Rush because Rush is just the greatest ever. I did add a not included category here. That is immediately going to be for feedback because even though this is a good album, it is a cover album, which, I mean, again, the covers are just spectacular, but it is not exactly an album that I'm going to be including in this ranking because it's not a original album. So, all right, I guess we'll get started from the first to the last. Let's see where we put these. Obviously, we got Farewell to Kings here. Got one of my all-time favorite Rush songs of all time, which is Xanadu. We got Cygnus X1. Just great songs. We do have some slower songs in the record. Obviously, we got Madrigal, which even the slower songs are not going to be bad, let's be honest here. We got Farewell to Kings itself, a decent song. We got Cinderella Man, which I actually think is a great song. Closer to the Heart, which was like one of their first like single hits. I mean, just an overall great album. Definitely in the top two tiers. I'm gonna try to limit it to four per row. I mean, if it was up to me, I'd put most of them in the S and then A, and leaving these empty. But I mean, that's not what we're doing here today. We got to make it interesting. So, again, it's almost S tier because of Xanadu and Cygnus just alone. But we got we got some good ones coming up here. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it to A. Some people might put it in S. Would not blame them for doing so, but that's just where it stands right now. The next we got Moving Pictures. I mean, come on now. This was like their greatest radio hit. We got Tom Sawyer on there, which, you know, some people could stand to not hear it again. You know, I've heard it a billion times, and I still could yet hear it another billion and never get tired of it. But we got some rarities on here. You know, you got Vital Signs, Witch Hunt, Camera Eye, which I actually, in recent times, have ended up listening to those more because of the fact that, I mean, you don't hear those all the time. You hear the hits like Limelight and Tom Sawyer and Red Barchetta. I mean, you know, it's not the whole album just from front. There's not a single bad song on here. If you want to like give one song like an A instead of an A plus, it would probably be Camera Eye. But I mean, come on, this has got to be S tier all the way. Always gonna be S tier. Never any different. Same thing really for Permanent Waves here. You got pretty much every song is like an A plus except for maybe Different Strings. Probably put that as about a B plus type song. Again, still a great song. My old favorite song, Natural Science, is on here, and then you got Jacob's Ladder. My dad's favorite song, Free Will, is on this album. I mean, the album is stacked as well. There's not really a bad track on here. Even if you go as far as saying Different Strings is bad, it's not even, I mean, for Rush, it's maybe like on the lower tier of songs, but I mean, it's still a fantastic album. Man, we're starting out strong here. It's going to be hard not to put these next couple in an S-type tier, so I'm going to put it up here in S as well, because that's where it belongs. Also, as I go along here, I am going to try to rank these in the order that I would put them if I was ranking them like on on a normal ranking type list as well. So tier and ranking at the same time. You get the best of both worlds. Now here's where I might differ a little bit from some people. Hemispheres is their greatest, in my opinion, prog album. I mean, you got Hemispheres, part 2 of Cygnus X1 on there. You got the Trees, La Vila. I mean, even Circumstances is pretty decent. I mean, lesser amount of songs on this album. Oh, I have a cat here. Hey there, Jellybean. They're wanting to get in on this tier list too, I guess. Again, not a lot of songs on this album, but each one is just top quality, top tier. All of them are, pretty much favorites of mine. I mean, La Vila is just one of the greatest. As a drummer, I like trying to challenge myself to some of these songs, so this is always near the top for me. I mean, this is their greatest radio hit album, and this one is just the greatest prog album, in my opinion, for Rush, so that always goes into S tier for me, actually ahead of Permanent Waves. Now, it was not that way for years, but then after I've done a lot of deep dives and a lot of listens, I think even the Hemispheres tour, that and well, these two tours might have been my two favorites, because those are the last two that they actually played Cygnus X1, Book 1 and 2 all the way through. I listened to a lot of bootlegs, and these two tours, man, just amazing. Of course, any of these tours are going to be great. I started being able to see them after Snakes and Arrows onward, so I didn't really get to see the early days, but man, listening to it, so good. After that, we got Rush 2112. This album is good. Now, look, I mean, it has their classic, 2112. It was like their big breakthrough song. Of course, it's got to go somewhere towards the top. Twilight Zone's pretty decent. But then you got... And then even Lessons is pretty decent. Oh, well, I'm forgetting Passage to Bangkok as well. What an excellent song. Tears, hit or miss with Tears, man. I don't know. Tears is okay when Geddy's got that kind of voice going. He's trying to put that emotion in there, and it's okay. It's like his voice has not quite matured yet to the level of Permanent Waves and Moving Pictures, but it's there. Again, I love the hits on this, though. The 2112 obviously is just outstanding, one of their best songs ever. Passage to Bangkok's great. Twilight Zone was always one of those quirky type songs that I've always loved. Lessons is pretty good, straight ahead. Tears, though, it's okay. And again, they're not quite hitting their stride yet, but this is their big breakthrough album, so I'm always going to put it somewhere up towards the tops. I'm going to probably put it in A for now. Some people might put this in S. I'm not, again, Rush is amazing. I'm not going to blame you if you're putting any of these albums up in S, because, to be honest, a lot of them deserve to be up there. I would stack this whole row if I could, but, and which I could, but I'm going to set some limits for myself, going to make it interesting. Here we got Grace Under Pressure. Now, this is an interesting one, because I would say that all the songs, except for Kid Gloves, I've never really been a big fan of Kid Gloves. I love The Body Electric. I mean, there's so many good songs on this album, but the sound of it, I mean, they're getting into that keyboard era after Signals, and it's just too tinny. The guitar sound is too tinny. There's a lot of keyboards, which I don't mind keyboards, but when it when that takes over the overall sound, and there's the guitar being tinny, and then the electronic drums starting to come in, it just doesn't quite do it for me. And the thing is, I cannot tell you, besides Kid Gloves, again, I got like a vendetta against that song. I don't know what it is. Besides Kid Gloves, I think it's a really good album. It's not like as proggy as their earlier albums, but it's all fast-paced. It's still got the good rhythms, and the drums are still excellent on each song. I think Geddy's voice is great on this album. It's just... And again, Body Electric being like a computer programmer, and the fact that they got all like the robots and everything. I mean, just excellent songs, of course. Red Sector A is one of their big ones, Distant Early Warning. I mean, good. A very good album, but... it's painful for me to do this because of the tinny guitar sound. I mean, Alex Lifeson needs to be able to wail and do his thing, and it just doesn't quite do it on this album. And this is a very unpopular opinion, I'm going to have to put it down here in B. It's just not quite up there with the other classic albums. I can't do it. I cannot do it. Now, on that same line, though, Signals is still has that classic guitar sound. The keyboards are starting to have more of a commonplace in the music, But I tell you what, and some people give this album a little bit of crap because chemistry is supposed to be like Witch Hunt. They're trying to follow up moving pictures here, but I every single song in this album to me is still just amazing. I mean, you start out with Subdivisions, you got songs like Countdown, which, again, as a software engineer type of person, I love all the space exploration stuff. I mean, just every song on here is great too. Losing It, I saw that on the R40 tour, amazing. I mean, everything on this album is great. And yeah, I do like the keyboards in this album because there's a good balance. It's not just it's not straight keyboards. It's not too much. It's a good balance of everything. I think every song is good. And I come back to this one actually more often now than I used to because it's basically like moving pictures plus a little bit more keyboards. And, I mean, I think it's a plateau from here. I don't think it's a degradation in terms of their sound. I think it's just different, but on the same quality and the same level. So I always put this up here, which some people are not going to like. I know. But hey, I mean, everyone's different. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions. And this is just where I would place it. Is actually, nah, I can't put it above Permanent Waves. On any given day, they might switch, though. I'll be honest. These two, back and forth, I mean, it just depends on the day. Am I feeling more guitars, or am I feeling a little bit more of that keyboard age? But, I mean, the songs, they're just excellent. I'll tell you what, Signals does not have different strings. That's the only thing that might push it ahead of this. But, I mean, the classics on here are just classic for a reason, so I can't do it. Cannot do it. Sorry. Okay, now Counterparts. Now, when I was a kid, I used to not like this album as much because they didn't play as many of these songs on any of the live albums. I always heard, like, Animate, and that was it. That was the only song I knew from this when I was a kid, and I grew up and actually listened to it, and I'm like, man, they came out of that keyboard age, and they're like, it's time to frickin' throw down. So, we got some heavier tunes on here, a lot of guitar and bass just coming right at you. Great drums, as always, of course, especially on Animate. I think Neil Peart said that was like his favorite song to play. I mean, just an excellent album. It's not the classics. I can't put it as high as these, let's be honest here. But, I mean, just an amazing album. I'm going to put it here at B+. Some people are like, why didn't you put an A? Well, I had to kind of go through this beforehand. I had to have something written out, and there's more to come for A. I mean, come on now. There's so many good albums down here. I mean, we're coming up to Fly By Night here, and I just couldn't quite do it. I mean, this album has a lot of songs that are just kind of... I mean, they're good, but they don't, like, stand out. I mean, like, when I listen to this album, it's very good, and I listen to it again and again, but it's not like the songs... It's kind of the same thing that really Vapor Trail suffers from. I mean, the remix sounds... We'll get to that eventually, but, I mean, the songs, like... well, I mean, they have the song Stick It Out on there, but, I mean, again, there's just some that don't quite, like, stick out as classic songs. I mean, you got The Speed of Love and like Cold Fire and Everyday Glory on here, which are all good songs, but they're not like standout songs. I've always liked Double Agent, Leave That Thing Alone. I mean, Alien Shores, again, but a lot of those songs were never played live or anything because they're just not standout type songs. They were played on the tour, and then after that, that was it. I mean, Nobody's Hero, they played a couple of times. Stick It Out, they've played quite often. Animate, even more so. Cut to the Chase is a great song. I mean, there's so many good songs on this album, but I cannot bring it in myself to put it up to A tier. It's just not quite there. There's other albums that are slightly better, which we will be getting to shortly. My phone has decided to restart, so I have lost the tier list that I had. Okay, hold on. Which might be a good thing, because then I would completely reorder everything. But anyway, we'll go on to the next one now. So now we got Fly By Night, which has always been one of my favorite albums. I mean, again, it's their second album. They're still finding their stride, but I mean, this thing is loaded. By Tour is one of my favorite songs of all time. Then you got Anthem, just amazing. Sorry, taking a sip of wine there. What else we got on this album? I mean, come on now. Drawing a blank here. For some reason, Yeah, okay. Well, you got Best I Can, which actually I think was written around the time of the first album. Um, yeah, I don't know if it was Neil Peart that wrote Best I Can or if it was like Getty and Alex before this album came out. But yeah, that's a good song. Beneath Between Behind is good, but I don't know what the heck it's talking about. Fly By Night, that's like my Rush Tom Sawyer. I could stand not to hear that again. I don't know. Fly By Night is good, but it's played all the gosh darn time, and it's not like that special. Let's be honest. Um, it's decent though. I mean, and then you got Making. Now I'm looking at this album again. I might have to actually change what I had on my original tier list. I mean, okay, you got In the End, which is amazing. I mean, the songs on here that are great are just spectacular, but then you got some songs that are okay. And then Rivendell's just kind of beautiful Lord of the Rings esque, but it doesn't have any drums or anything. And as a drummer, I gotta have the drums, man. I mean, if you made Rivendell like an epic Lord of the Rings type piece, I'd be totally down. But it doesn't have that. So yeah, now that I'm looking at it again, I should have probably looked at it again beforehand. Um, I'm gonna do what a lot of you were probably like yelling at me to do. I'm gonna put Counterparts up there and Fly By Night down here. I hate to do it because Bytor, especially with that growling guitar and that mean kind of, I mean the battle is epic, and then they got that like cool like cave sequence in the middle of it that usually leads into Xanadu and the concerts and everything. I mean the songs that are great on here are spectacular, and then the songs that are okay are okay. I mean, again, I love this album, but I just now that I'm looking at it, I cannot put it in A. It's not quite there yet. They're finding their stride. They're getting there, but they don't quite have the S tier going yet. I mean, we're getting there, but we're not quite there yet. Um, and with that, we'll move on to Power Windows, which of the keyboard phase, as I call it, the '80s phase, this is the best album that they have. I mean, I don't know what to say really about it. It's just like, for some reason, the songs hit me more than the other keyboard phase albums. I don't know if they did a better mixing or what it was. I mean, I even like Big Money, and Big Money, like, the lyrics are okay in Big Money, let's be honest. I mean, it's gotten a lot more poppy at this point, but I don't know. Like the guitar doesn't sound tinny, and the songs are catchy. And then I love Manhattan Project. I mean, as again like an engineer, I love any of these things that are like kind of wartime based or about like rocketry or like computers. I mean, basically every song on this album is just really catchy and great. And then the bass on Territories, maybe it's the bass. It's better mixed. I don't know. I mean, the marathon's good, except for like the very end with all the freaking choirs going on. I could stand not to see that music video with the 2D weird cartoony mouths like singing in the background. I could do with not seeing that again, but I mean, otherwise, I mean, even Emotion Detector, which is like never talked about. Emotion Detector's a decent song too. I mean, there's nothing bad on this album. I'm actually gonna put this album up at A as well, just because. Well, no, did I have it at A? No, I probably put it at B plus. There's no way it's an A. Yeah, okay. No, I put it in B, or B plus here because it's just it's a great album through and through. It does not turn me off as much as some of the tinny sounds here. We'll get to that later with Tai Shan or whatever the heck that song is. But I mean, it's got a lot of great songs. It's still got the keyboard esque stuff, but it has a better balance, and I don't know, it just sounds better to me than their other keyboard age albums. So that's where this is going. Some people might place it lower or higher. Again, everyone's opinion is different. I would personally put everything from Rush pretty much at S or A tier if I could, but I gotta make this interesting. I know I keep saying it, but I kind of feel bad now that I'm looking at it. I'm like, dang, I like all these albums, but I gotta do what you gotta do when you're ranking stuff. Anyway, so here we got Clockwork Angels is next. Now, okay, in my lifetime, I've only been alive since 1997. So I think Tesperako came out in '96, right? Yeah. So everything from my lifetime has been Feedback, which is not included, and then Vapor Trails onward. So Clockwork Angels, I was starting to get into my early teens and stuff, and I was just way into this because by that time I was getting way into music. I was starting to collect vinyls and stuff. This was just spectacular, but They are getting older. Getty does not sound nearly as good here, I'll be honest. It is a concept album, though. I love the red, my favorite color. They got the orchestrations in there and everything, so I do love the album, but it is slightly tainted by the fact that they're a little bit older. They don't quite have that youthful speed and sound to them anymore. I mean, it's a spectacular album. Again, I don't think, besides like BU2B2, which is just like a little transitional piece, every song on here is great. Some people give Caravan crap. I like Caravan. BU2B's great. The Wreckers, Headlong Flight, the Garden is that should have been. I know they went backwards on their R40 tour, but if they would have ended with the Garden, I tell you what, I would have not been upset about that. That's just a beautiful. I might have teared up if they ended with the Garden, but they didn't end up doing that. So, still, great album. I wish I could rank it higher, but it suffers from the fact that, yeah, they are a bit older here and not quite able to keep up to the same speed and the sound of Getty's voice, of course, which, again, I couldn't do it. So I'm not going to blame him, but in terms of listening to the album, it just suffers a little bit from that. So I'm going to put it at the top, the very top of the B+ tier. Pains me to do that, too, because I love this so much, but I gotta do it. I hate it, but I gotta do it. Okay, now Rush, Roll the Bones. My dad always loved this album. He played it all the time. Early 90s, he was all into it. Even in 97 when I was born, so I heard this a whole lot. I love the song Roll the Bones. Dreamline is one of their greatest songs of all times. And then I like, again, a lot of people don't like this album very much. But I actually like most of the album, let's be honest. I'm going to go through song by song here. Bravado, I think, is a decent song. It's got some slower bits, though, so it's not my favorite. Face Up is pretty good. I mean, it's fast-paced. It's like... I mean, it's just... I love all that. The drumming is great. Where's My Thing is a great instrumental. Big Wheels, alright. Heresy's alright. Ghost of a Chance, that's one of my mom's favorite songs of all time. I mean, I even had that at my wedding. As one of the songs that came up, because you can kind of slow dance to it until it gets going. I mean, it's still a great song. Neurotica's great, and then You Bet Your Life is okay. I mean, this album is pretty good through and through, at least for me. They're getting their rock stride back on. They're coming out of that keyboard phase. I think the sounds are good. I mean, again, it's coming out of the 80s. They're trying to bring a little bit more of a 90s vibe. I mean, it sounds a little bit dated, but I personally love it. And it's got like he's kicking it's not a bunch of rabbits coming out of a hat anymore. You got some boy kicking a skull with, I mean, they're coming out of that phase, and I really like this album. I think it's a big step up for them. And the problem is, though, you got all the albums that come up here, and you're like trying to find a place for this, and I have to put it, the way I have it anyway, is at the top of the B tier, even ahead of Grace Under Pressure. I know a lot of people are going to be giving me crap about that. I think the songs in Grace Under Pressure are better, but the sound is better on Roll the Bones. And obviously songs like Dreamline and stuff I would take over any song in Grace Under Pressure. Even Body Electric, it just doesn't match up. It's only the sound. It's only the sound. If it wasn't for that tinny guitar, this thing would be way up there. But, I gotta put it somewhere. And then we go to Caress of Steel, and Caress of Steel, again, there was like one of those skits of Hitler in the War Room. Anyone who does not like Caress of Steel is their favorite album, get out. There's like that whole meme or whatever. Caress of Steel, some die-hard Rush fans think it's one of the best. I think it's decent. I'm not... I don't know. Like, The Necromancer is spectacular. Bastille Day is pretty great. And then what do you got besides those, right? I mean, you got... Okay, I Think I'm Going Bald. It's upbeat, right? It's not a terrible song, but it's kind of weird. Lakeside Park is decent, but I don't have any memories about Lakeside Park. I don't live in Canada. It's okay. again, they played it in their R40 tour, and it was decent or whatever. It's just not the song for me. Fountain of Lamneth is a very good prog song. But again, when you're listening to it, I've never been like a fan of Gentle Giant or any of the songs that like really hop around, like the yes, no, no, yes, go, yes, like whatever that part is in Fountain of Lamneth. There's chapters of Fountain of Lamneth that are kind of weird for me. There's chapters that are absolutely spectacular as well, but I mean, it's just I cannot put this album up here as much as I'd like to. It's in that classic phase of Rush. But it's just not, they're not quite there yet. 2112 really brings them to the forefront. Caress of Steel is just, it's got a little ways to go. I mean, there's a reason that was called the Down the Tubes tour. I mean, if I did a little bit of weed or something, I might think this is their best album. But I don't do that, so, I mean, I have a little bit of wine going, but that's still not going to bring me to think this is one of their best. I mean, it's a sick album cover and everything. I mean, and then the little bit of footage that they do have from this tour sounds amazing, but you got to like do some deep digging to find any of this footage. I mean, most of it's just like that, like the what is it, 44 millimeter, whatever that footage, like it's silent footage that you can watch. But again, I've looked everything into this album. I've tried to appreciate it more than I even do, and it's hard to do. I mean, the Necromancer's the best song off of it, and then Bastille Day, and then parts of Fountain, but I mean that's it. I cannot like it as much as most of these. So as much as I hate it again, I'm gonna have to put this album probably down in this B tier. Which I can't, again, it's still fantastic. I can't put anything below B, but it's just not gonna go up here. I cannot do it. And then we got the original, the first album. Which the Rush was originally supposed to be red, as you've probably heard, but there was a printing error, and so it came out pink. I still think it works. I've gotten used to it. This album, I mean, again, some of the songs sound like their later stuff, to be honest, like Here Again, Before and After. I mean, some of those type of songs are not as poppy as the other songs on the album. And then you got Working Man, which the original version, if you find like when they played live in New York for some of the network directors or whatever, they actually added parts of Bite Tour before it was even a song into the mix, and it was like a 13-minute version of Working Man. It's one of the best versions ever. Of course, yeah, gotta love Working Man. I love Finding My Way. I love What You're Doing. In the Mood is one of my mom's favorite songs. I used to play that a quarter to 8 all the time on KC 95, one of the rock stations that we have here. I like Before and After. I like Here Again. Need Some Love and Take a Friend are a little bit more poppy. But again, this is a great debut album. I've got no complaints. I mean, none of the songs are bad. It's gotta go at least up to B+, and that's pretty much where I'm going to put it. Now, obviously, I think, Fly By Night is a slight step up from this. They're getting their proggier tones. They got Neil. I mean, so the drum work is just spectacular. So I think this is pretty much how this row is going to go here, because this is... Yeah, and I almost wish I could put it higher sometimes. I mean, again, some of these depends on the day. Some of these could switch around a little bit. I almost think I should put this lower, but it's just such a good album. The thing, I cannot fault Geddy Lee's voice at this point, because, I mean, who wouldn't have some trouble at, like, age, what was he, like, at this point, 60, 62, whatever it was. I mean, I couldn't do it. I think the way that they orchestrated the whole album and produced it, I mean, it's just great. I don't know. I keep wanting to put it lower, because do I go back to this as much as some of these earlier albums? Maybe not, but it's just... I do love the album so much, and I was, again, I was alive when this came out, so when it came out, it was, like, brand new to me, and I listened to it again and again and again and again, and I gotta put it here. I gotta do that. And then we get to Hold Your Fire. What a wussy. I mean, again, it's red. I like the color red. It has a little bit of a influence on me, but I can't. Okay, it's so gosh darn poppy and keyboardy and just not the Rush that I know. Now, there is some good songs on here, I'll be honest. There is some songs on here that I listen to quite often, actually. It's not Time Stand Still. You might think it's Time Stand Still. Time Stand Still is a decent song. It's a pop song, though, and I keep thinking of that god-awful music video when they're all floating around behind with this green screen or what. It's not... it just makes me cringe every single time. No, there's actually two songs in this album that I really, really like, and parts of them sound like classic Rush. Turn the Page is my favorite song off of this album. Turn the Page is spectacular. The other song is Lock and Key. Lock and Key is also kind of along the same lines of Turn the Page. Very fast paced, a lot of guitar. Love those two songs. And then, there's some okay songs. You got Time Stand Still, Force 10, Mission, the middle section of Mission when they go into like that instrumental. Oh, just okay. That part's great. If the whole song was like that, it might have even moved this up one or something. But then you got Open Secrets is okay. You got Prime Mover, which is not great at all. Second Nature, High Water, good drums on High Water. It's just kind of there. And then you got Tai Shan, which my grandma, who only likes like the type of if you hear like the woods and some kind of like wood flute playing with the wind in the background, she likes all that type of stuff. She likes Tai Shan, and if that's telling you something, This album is just not. It's not Rush. It's not the Rush that I've come to know and love. It's the end of the keyboard era. That's when they went into Presto after that and made it a hell of a lot better. But it's just not. Again, some good stuff on here. It's still a Rush album. It's not going to go into the C or below, but it's not great. Looking at all the albums that they have, I gotta put it in last. So I'm gonna put it in B minus. Some people like it better than that. I just personally cannot. I cannot do it. So that's where that's going. Now we're getting to some good stuff here. Okay, again, personal bias. This came out. What was it? 2006. Let me double check on that. 2007. Okay, so I was 10 years old at the time. That shows you how young I am. Different perspective on it. I mean, this thing came out with Far Cry was one of the first singles. Gosh, I'm getting myself mixed up with that. Far Cry was on there. They had The Larger Bowl as one of the singles, which I thought that was only okay. But you got Working Them Angels. The first three songs on the album, Armor and Sword, Working Them Angels, and Far Cry, are just some of the best Rush music since, Moving Pictures. I'm going to be honest here. Then you got The Larger Bowl, which my dad calls The Larger Bucket. He doesn't like that song much at all. It's okay. They had the Bob and Doug McKenzie intro during the tour, which was kind of funny, but it's okay. Hyundai Ioniq 6 versus Tesla Model 3. That was scary. Okay. Then you got Spindrift, which I think is actually pretty good. My dad doesn't like the song. He thinks Geddy's yelling a little bit too much. I think his voice is just fine still at this point, so I'm not gonna... I think that song is great. Main Monkey Business. Come on now. The instrumental, just amazing. I love playing drums to that. The way the wind blows, how it has the ebb and flow of, the certain sections that are really rocking, and then just a kind of nice... moving along type sections. I love that song. Hope, decent guitar solo. Being a person of faith myself, a Christian, I never listened to Faithless. As a matter of fact, one of my friends started playing Faithless one time, and they were like, "You gotta know this song then." And I'm like, I'm a Rush fan, and I don't know this song. And it ended up being Faithless, and I'm like, that's why. I've listened to it once or twice. If I listen to an instrumental version of it, it's decent, but the lyrics just turn me off so much, I can't listen to it. So, Faithless is not even on my radar, but, then you get The Bravest Face. I think that's a great song. Good News First is a great song. Malignant Narcissism, whatever, that excellent song. And then We Hold On is a great song. Again, a little bit of bias. Some people don't put this nearly as high. They usually put it near the bottom, actually. Maybe it's because they haven't had as much time to listen to it. I personally think this is one of their best albums. So that's why I've been saving this spot. An A for is for me to put this up here. I thought the tour was fantastic. It was the first tour I ever went on. Wanted to go to R30. I was a little bit too young for that. But I remember standing on my seat just to be able to see them during this tour because, I was like 10 years old. I was super small. But, man, love this tour and the drum solo and everything. So I have very fond memories of this album here. And I just cannot place it any lower. A lot of people might place it lower. Now, I'm not going to go as much as trying to put it above some of their classics here. Come on, I just can't do it. But it's got to go in A, and on any given day, it might beat out a couple of these, but this is just the ultimate ranking of all time, so I got to put it down here. It's not as good as some of these, but it's better than these, in my opinion. And that takes a lot to say, but it's just how it is. That's how it is. So, yeah, that's where it's at for me. They all rock a lot. I could listen to the whole album through, unlike the next one we're going to get to, and I'm still excited by the sound of every song. Now, the next album that we're going to get to is Vapor Trails. Now, the original mixing of Vapor Trails just sounded muddy. It just, every song sounded basically the same. It just wasn't an exciting album to listen to. It was just too muddy. Then they remixed it, and it sounded much, much better. But it's still an album that, again, it just, in my mind, because of the fact that the original, maybe it was because of the original still being on my mind, it just never quite achieved that status for me. Not to say that any individual song on it is not good. Let's be honest. When I have this on my shuffle and a song comes up on this album, I'm like, that is a great song. Like, you got One Little Victory, Ceiling Unlimited is okay. You got Ghost Rider, which is great. Peaceable Kingdom is okay. The Stars Look Down is okay. How It Is okay. There's nothing bad on it. Vapor Trail, and then Secret Touch, Earthshine, those are all amazing. Sweet Miracle, Nocturne are okay. You got Freeze, which is awesome. Out of the Cradle's okay. Again, there's not a bad song on here. But when you're listening to the album, it just kind of sounds all the same. I know Geddy was trying to do a little bit more of Alex's work, and Alex was trying to do a little bit more Geddy's work. They were mixing it up. It's not a bad album. It does rock. It just doesn't pop for me. It never really has had that sort of feeling for me where I want to listen to the whole album, once I start. It's more one of those that I like hearing individual tracks from it mixed in with other stuff from their itinerary, but I've never... It's not up there for me. And, when I look at this list, I have to put it down at B-, and I hate doing that because it is a good album, which is why I set it up this way. I don't want... Nothing belongs in C. There's nothing that bad. But it's just not, it's not up there. So I got to put it here. Ahead, whatever, okay, yeah. It's better than Hold Your Fire. It doesn't have Tyshawn on it, I know that much. Then we get to Presto. Now, a lot of people don't like Presto either. I actually like the sound of Presto. The snare drum is really crisp in this. It might still be electric, but I like the sound of it. I don't know why. I just really like the sound of it. Again, some of the songs on here are a little bit wussier, but I think that they had a really good blend of keyboards and kind of the more rockin' sound that they were starting to redevelop at this time. Again, I don't know. There's no songs on here that I hate, which is really weird. My dad does not like this album. I know I keep talking about my dad. He's had a huge influence on me liking Rush my whole life. He would put this probably down here with Hold Your Fire. I can't do it. I personally like almost every song on the album, like Show Don't Tell, Chain Lightning, Superconductor are some of my favorites, and then you got Presto is great, and The Pass is great. I even like Scars and War Paint, towards the end when he really gets going, like Paint the Mirror Black, the mirror always lies, like all that stuff. Just and then Anagram for Mongo, which on Spotify it doesn't have the for Mongo bit, which is weird, but Red Tide, Hand Over Fist. Available Light is maybe the wussiest song in the album. Again, I like every single song in this album. And again, it's kind of wussy. It's still in their wussier phase. They got rabbits coming out of a hat. They don't have, like menacing looking owls or like toppled down castles or anything like they used to have. But or naked men. I mean, you could you could make that argument, I guess. But it's just it's very good. I've always liked it. No, I cannot put it up here with these, but I gotta put it up a little bit higher. And yes, I do think it's better than Grace Under Pressure because the sound, in my opinion, is better. Um, on any given day, these might switch. Caress of Steel, again, there's a lot of people that are going to give me crap about this if they watch this video. Caress of Steel is very good. It's very good. It sounds better than Grace Under Pressure, but when you look at it as an album as a whole, and you look at every single song on it, one like can I listen to this whole album and like enjoy myself the entire time? Not completely. It's just I'm going bald in Lakeside Park, and again, Lakeside Park's better for some people than others. Some of those songs just don't quite do it for me. So when you're listening to it as an album as a whole, these make more sense. So I have to put it down here. Now, if you were like just basing it on like songs and you were comparing Necromancer against some of the stuff in these, it'd probably go up, but I can't do that. I got to do it as an album as a whole. If I were to listen to the vinyl front and back, this one goes down here. It's not going into B minus tier with Tai Shan and sounds the same every song, but it's it's not up here, which take that as you will. Test for Echo. What do I even say? Okay, it's a great album. It came out the year before I was born. My dad was playing this all the time, even when I was a kid. I remember all of it. I mean, Test for Echo, Driven, Half the World. I mean, the first 3 songs on the album is all this album really needs. And then they added the other songs, and I'm just like, come on. Right? I mean, okay, so let's go through here, I guess. Test for Echo, amazing song. Driven, some people give it crap, because I've watched a lot of these ranking videos, let's be honest. I actually really like Driven. It's a great song. It really drives, It's a good driving song, actually. Half the World is a great song. I mean, it's not quite as fast-paced or heavy as the first 2 songs, but it's a great song. And then, the other songs, they're decent. I like The Color of Right. Time and Motion, I always thought was very unique for them, so I have always kind of liked that song. Totem, I liked it better before I got really into Christianity, and then it just kind of got a little weird, so I don't like that song that much. Dog Years is just so freaking weird. A tortoise from Galapagos, or a sand of geological time, or it's a weird song. And again, the instrumentals on these songs are still pretty good. I mean, they're more rockin' now than they were in the keyboard phase, and the album cover is one of their best, let's be honest, but it just doesn't quite hit. Virtuality doesn't quite hit. It's okay. Net boy, net girl, send your signal around. I mean, it's okay. Resist. I actually thoroughly like Resist. A lot of people don't like Resist as much. I think it's good. I think it's a pleasant song. It's something that I could listen to, and I don't have to like dig too deep into it to like it. It's there. I like their live versions where they made it acoustic. I think Eddie's voice actually sounds really good on this song. He's not like yelling or anything, but it's a good song. I kind of like Resist. It's a pleasant song. And then Limbo, I actually think it's a really good instrumental. My dad used to have this album on CD, and it had skips in it, but only on that song. So that kind of got in my head, and so I never put Limbo as high as some of the other instrumentals, but I'll tell you what, Limbo might be one of their best instrumentals if you really listen to it with the bass and just, oh man, it's really good. So, I mean, that helps the album, and Carve Away the Stone is a decent song, but again, it's not, I wouldn't even put above Crest of Steel. It's just not quite there. I think it's better than Vapor Trails because the songs that are good, they pop from the album. They don't just sound like everything else on the album. And it doesn't have Tai Shan. So, I give that song so much crap. Really? Okay. So, this is what I'm going... That is pretty much it. That is how I would rank all the Rush albums from left to right on each row in order of how good I think they are. Now, again, I like all of them. if you played, even if you played Tai Shan for me, I'm still gonna listen to it. Um, they're all great albums. I'm not gonna give any of them any crap. I mean, I would listen to them any day. It's still my one of my favorite bands of all time. And in any given day, some of these could switch around, like I was kind of saying, but this is kind of my penultimate, can't talk, penultimate ranking of the Rush albums. So hopefully that gave some insight today to some of you that are trying to rank it on your own. I know I was watching a bunch of other rankings to kind of get what other people were thinking about these albums, and it kind of made me think about it a little bit more. But to be honest, this has kind of been my ranking for a while now. If you would have asked me about 5, 10 years ago, it would have been completely different. But yeah, for now, in terms of the studio albums, if we get to the live albums, maybe we'll do that sometime. I didn't really find a template that had those yet, but the live albums themselves, you got, I mean, Exit Stage Left and All the World's a Stage are going to be up here in S, and then you got different stages. Yeah, I don't know how I would do those either. I mean, and then they've been releasing more live albums, so again, that's not what this ranking is about. I mean, all the live albums are great, but yeah, this is pretty much what I got for now. So, hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully, it was a slightly different ranking than most other people. Everyone's got their unique taste, and depending on your age, you might have a different sense of what like really hits you, like in your childhood, like Snakes and Arrows for me, or Clockwork Angels, than other people that have been there through it all. So, yeah, hopefully, it offered a unique perspective. So, yeah, anyone that's watching this, have a nice day or night. And I will probably do another ranking soon. See you later.